The movie begins by showing a tense and eerie atmosphere in a house in Minnesota in 1983, as we see a serial killer named Phil methodically preparing a set of knives that he plans to use to kill his next victims. Phil gets into his car and finds a new target. As he drives, he searches the streets looking for someone who catches his eye. Finally, he pulls up to a seedy motel where he spots a woman named Carrie standing alone in a phone booth. Seizing the opportunity, he approaches her and offers her a ride, playing the part of a kind and helpful stranger. Despite her initial misgivings, Carrie gets into Phil's car and starts to feel uneasy as he locks the doors. As Phil's sinister smile spreads across his face, she realizes that she is in grave danger. She grabs a sharp object and manages to stab him multiple times in the throat, killing him. The scene then shifts to introduce Joel, a film critic for the horror magazine Vicious Fanatics. He is currently in a heated conversation with Jack Partwood, a B-movie director, about the tired trope of serial killer stories. Joel expresses his frustration with the genre's lack of originality and variety. He suggests to Jack that he should make a film about a serial-killing taxi driver instead. According to Joel, a taxi driver is a perfect profession for serial killers because they can roam freely on the streets, looking for random victims without arousing suspicion. He argues that people tend to forget the face of a taxi driver, which makes it easy for a killer to get away with their crimes. After discussing the serial killer film with Jack, Joel returns home, where he sees his roommate, Sarah, being dropped off by her new boyfriend, Bob. Despite his unrequited feelings for her, he tries to hide his emotions and acts as a friendly and supportive roommate in front of her. However, as he leaves the house, he notices Bob's car still parked out front, and a few minutes later, Bob reappears, wearing a ring on his ring finger. This makes Joel suspicious, as he wonders if he could be married. Determined to protect Sarah from getting involved with a potentially unfaithful partner, Joel decides to follow Bob's car. He trailed Bob to a Chinese bar and restaurant, where he saw him sitting alone drinking. Joel musters up the courage to approach him and ask about the ring he's wearing, but is disappointed to learn that it's not a wedding ring and Bob is single. Joel looks saddened but relieved that Sarah is not dating a married man. After learning that Bob is not married, Joel watches as he leaves the bar with another woman. Bob carelessly hands Joel the bill for his drinks before leaving with the woman, and despite feeling dejected, Joel stays at the bar and continues to drink heavily. As the night wears on, he becomes increasingly drunk and, at some point, accidentally bumps into Carrie, who is also enjoying her drink. In a moment of drunken impulsiveness, Joel goes to a nearby public phone and attempts to call Sarah to profess his love for her. However, in the process, he vomits and breaks the phone. Unable to take care of himself in his inebriated state, Joel stumbles around, looking for a place to rest. Eventually, he enters a room that looks like a warehouse and collapses on the floor, passing out without noticing that the bar has been closed and locked from the outside. A few hours later, Joel wakes up, still drunk, and wanders back into the bar's dining room, where he discovers a group of people sitting around a table, deep in conversation. As he approaches, he realizes this is not a casual group of friends, but a group of serial killers led by a man named Zachary. The other members, Carrie, Fritz, Mike, and Hideo, are all killers. As Joel processes this shocking revelation, the group notices him and, mistaking him for one of their own, and Zachary invites him to join their discussion. Joel, realizing that he's stumbled into a dangerous situation, decides to play along and listen to their conversation about how to choose and kill their victims without leaving a trace. When it's his turn to contribute to the conversation, Joel uses the movie idea he discussed earlier with Jack, and pitches the idea of a serial killer taxi driver as the perfect killer. As he explained before, a taxi driver could roam freely, look for random victims, and not be a suspect. He stresses how easy it would be for them to choose and kill victims without being traced because of the anonymity of the profession. After listening to Joel's pitch, Zachary, the group leader, calls for a 10-minute break, telling all the members to rest. Seeing this as his opportunity to escape, Joel quickly makes his way towards the main door, determined to find a way out of the bar before the group realizes he's not a real serial killer. Just as he's about to open the door, he is surprised by the sudden appearance of Bob, the man who had left the bar earlier with another woman. Bob is confused finding Joel in the group's company and starts asking him questions. However, the group members mistake Bob as the missing member, thinking that Joel, whom they believe to be Phil, has already killed his victim disguised as a taxi driver, and start asking Joel questions about how he committed the murder. Joel, who is still trying to find an excuse to leave and doesn't have an answer to the questions, starts to look nervous, and Bob starts to suspect something is off, and he considers Joel an intruder. Bob then grabs Joel and throws him into the kitchen area. The tension was palpable as the killers argued over what to do with Joel. Zachary, who considered himself to be the most experienced among them, took charge, asserting his authority. However, his words only infuriated Mike, Hideo, and Fritz, who saw him as an amateur. In anger, the trio turned on Zachary, brutally killing him. The remaining members quickly realized their mistake as the sound of Joel's recording device clattered to the floor. Carrie immediately acted, kicking Joel into the kitchen and locking him inside. Trapped and terrified, Joel pleaded for his life as the others debated their next move. Bob and the others outside the kitchen believed that Carrie was planning to take care of Joel alone, without the interference of the others. They stood by, waiting for her to make her move. In the kitchen, Joel's fate took a surprising turn. Instead of killing him, Carrie revealed her true identity as a member of a secret organization, on a mission to take down a group of serial killers operating in the area. She explained that the individuals outside were responsible for at least 12% of unsolved murders in North America, and her organization had been tracking them for some time. Joel listened in shock as she detailed their twisted and sadistic methods of killing. Meanwhile, outside the kitchen, Bob continued to play music, still unaware of the truth of the situation. As the plan began to take shape, the true nature of the individuals outside the kitchen was revealed to Joel. Hideo, a renowned chef, had a twisted desire to kill and consume the flesh of his victims. On the other hand, Mike preferred to target drunken teenagers at campsites, while Fritz relished in his victims' slow and torturous deaths. But among the four, Bob stood out as the most dangerous. A highly intelligent sociopath with an IQ of 180, he could manipulate and seduce his victims, leaving no trace behind. Growing suspicious that Carrie and Joel had not yet emerged from the kitchen, Bob ordered Fritz and Hideo to investigate. While they did so, Bob took it upon himself to dispose of Zachary's body to eliminate any evidence. Fritz attempted to enter the kitchen through the exterior door, while Hideo quietly snuck in through an overhead vent. Meanwhile, Carrie had anticipated their move and had turned off the kitchen lights, using the darkness to her advantage. As Fritz fiddled with the lock on the exterior door, Carrie, who had been lying in wait, suddenly swung a knife through the gap in the door, severely injuring Fritz's hand. Seeing that Hideo had entered the kitchen, Joel tried to distract him, buying Carrie time to launch a surprise attack. Just as Hideo was about to throw his dagger at Joel, Carrie sprang into action, strangling him from behind and bringing him to his demise. Bob made a shocking discovery outside the kitchen when he found Joel's driver's license. Upon examination, he learned that Joel was the roommate of a woman named Sarah and immediately set out to track her down, intending to kill her as well. Upon learning of Bob's intentions, Joel was filled with dread and fear. He confessed to Carrie that Sarah was his crush and that he had foolishly followed Bob, ultimately trapping him in the bar. Carrie was understandably upset upon hearing this, as Joel's actions had put his own life in danger and that of an innocent person. Feeling hopeless and desperate, Joel made a rash decision to pull the fire alarm in the hopes that the police would be able to save them from the serial killers outside. However, Carrie warned him that the police would not be on their side, as the killers would not hesitate to frame them for the murders. Sure enough, Bob had already called 911 and set them up to take the fall. With the police on their way, Bob, Mike, and Fritz escaped, leaving Carrie and Joel to face the consequences of their actions. When the police arrived, they found the bodies of Hideo and Fritz and promptly arrested Carrie and Joel on charges of murder. As they were being led away in handcuffs, Bob and the others watched from the safety of their car. After being taken to the police station, Joel and Carrie were interrogated about the murders at the bar. Joel tried to explain the truth about the events that had taken place to Detective Doyle, but his story was met with skepticism and disbelief. He also attempted to contact Sarah to warn her about Bob, but she hung up on him. Carrie tried to warn the police about the true nature of the situation and the danger that Bob and the other killers posed. However, like Joel, her warnings fell on deaf ears. Detective Hollins disregarded her claims as the ramblings of a criminal suspect. After being interrogated, Joel and Carrie were put in a holding cell. As they were being led away, Carrie made a sudden move and hit Joel, causing a small commotion and allowing her to grab a few paperclips from the police officer's desk. The police was momentarily distracted, and she passed them to Joel with a plan in mind. After the commotion caused by Carrie, the two were taken to a separate cell, where Tony left them alone. Once alone, Carrie explained to Joel her plan of using the paperclips to unlock the cell. Joel understood the situation and the need for drastic measures, and despite being punched, he didn't protest. As the two tried to find a way out of their predicament, Bob, disguised as a special agent with a fake mustache, arrived at the police station. He convinced Tony that he had been tracking Carrie and Joel for a long time and handed over a notebook filled with names of supposed targets that the two had been planning to kill. With his intelligence and ability to manipulate the situation, Bob convinced the police that he was a special agent, and Carrie and Joel were the criminals they were looking for. When he met with Joel in the holding cell, Joel desperately tried to convince Detective Doyle and Hollins that Bob was the actual murderer, but his claims fell on deaf ears. Having been taken in by Bob's lies, the two detectives scolded him for making unfounded accusations. Bob then invited Doyle and Hollins to drink with him while Tony was in another room, looking at a clown toy on the table. Unknown to Tony, Fritz had sneaked into the room and injected him with poison. Tony soon passed out, and Fritz killed him brutally, driving a nail into his forehead. As the night progressed, Mike began to implement his plan by cutting off the power to the police station. In confusion, Detective Doyle rushed out of his room to check on the power issue, and upon entering the room, he was brutally attacked and killed by Mike with a machete. Meanwhile, Bob took advantage of the opportunity to attack and kill Detective Hollins. As he completed his mission, he was surprised to find Fritz and Mike had entered the room secretly. The three planned to kill Carrie and Joel, who were still locked in their cell. However, when they reached the cell block, they were surprised. The cell doors had been opened, and Carrie and Joel had used the paperclips to unlock their cell. Bob also showed Carrie a note containing a list of serial killers that she had supposedly killed, which made the group anxious as they realized that she was not a person to be underestimated. As soon as she was freed, Carrie quickly urged Joel to flee the police station, telling him she would take care of the remaining serial killers. Joel, hearing her advice, ran as fast as he could out of the police station. With a clear objective, Carrie immediately set her sights on Mike, who was scouring the building in search of her and Joel. As he entered a room, Carrie ambushed him and killed him. Meanwhile, Sarah had come to the police station searching for Joel, and just as she entered the building, she was confronted by Fritz. Sarah, who had learned martial arts, could fight back and defend herself. Joel, that hearing the commotion, rushed back into the police station to protect her. Carrie, who had also targeted Fritz, used the opportunity to kill him by administering the same poison he had used to kill his victims. Unfortunately, as they escaped, Bob managed to sneak up on Carrie and stab her in the back, causing her to collapse. Joel, trying to protect her, was also stabbed in the arm. Bob was choking Carrie and was about to finish her off, when Joel grabbed a nearby phone and hit Bob in the head. He then helped Carrie limp outside to Sarah that was waiting in her car. When Sarah was about to drive away to the hospital, Bob appeared in front of the car, but she didn't hesitate, stepped on the gas, and hit him, causing him to fall. Once they arrived at the hospital, Carrie and Joel received immediate treatment from the doctors. Carrie's injuries were quite severe, and she needed to be hospitalized for intensive care. Joel and Sarah decided to stay by her side and take care of her until her condition improved. As Joel was walking down the hospital hallway, he noticed a trail of blood leading into a room and decided to investigate. Unfortunately, Bob, who was still alive, managed to sneak into the hospital and disguise himself as a doctor to kill Carrie while she was still recovering. When Joel discovered Bob's presence in the hospital, he immediately raced to Carrie's room. At the same time, Bob had arrived at Carrie's room and was preparing to kill her with a scalpel. Just as he was about to strike, Carrie suddenly woke up and grabbed his hand. Joel, who had arrived at the room, also sprang into action, hitting Bob and pushing him out of the room. With the last of her strength, Carrie helped Joel, who used the scalpel to stab Bob multiple times, killing him. The experience of fighting for their lives together had brought them closer. After seeing Joel's bravery and determination, Carrie offered him a job as her intern partner in hunting down serial killers. The two parted ways with Sarah and sneaked out of the hospital, ready to continue their mission. The film ends with Joel officially partnering with Carrie to hunt down and bring serial killers to justice. The last scene shows Joel infiltrating a movie theater, disguised as a customer to lure out a serial killer hiding in plain sight. While Carrie is waiting outside in the car, ready to strike once Joel has the killer in her sights. As the killer falls for Joel's trap, he runs towards the car where Carrie is waiting for him, prepared to strike with an axe. In the end, the serial killer is caught and killed in the movie theater showing the film, which is based on the idea of the killer taxi driver that Jack had stolen from Joel. The moral of the movie is, when people are put in dangerous situations, their true strengths and abilities will come to light. It also highlights the importance of working together as a team and trusting one another when stopping dangerous criminals.